Let's start with our rapid fire here. AMD Noah is our first one. What do you think of this one?
Well, I think it's right smack dab between key support and resistance zones. That's coming off of a triple bottom and a breakout, small retracement in that support zone. Look to your sectors. Tech sector's got some strength to it, so cautiously bullish, but neutral to bullish.
Okay, let's go to JetBlue next, and JBLU is a good one. Holy cow, that is dropping. Airlines, they've had a lot of volatility. They always do. They're tied to oil prices, all that kind of stuff. Breaking below support, really negative red candle. And Noah, if you'll zoom in on the trend the last few months, there's a couple things I want everybody to kind of focus in on. Number one is the big candles. Now, without making it too complicated, the red candles are bigger than the green candles, which means institutional selling. I want you to type in institutional selling in the chat. That is strengthening the trend, and this is why price action baby is something that we always say. There's a good t-shirt right there, Noah. Price action baby. I think that's something you've said 1,000 times. But definitely bearish, 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 and triggering. Noah, this would be an example of a bear breakdown in that you teach in the Master Trader class, correct?
Yeah, it's setting up really nicely for a breakdown, that key support at 19.
Let's do GoPro next. You take this next one.
All right, GPRO, GoPro, gapped up on earnings, filled its gap most of the way, not entirely, but most of the way. And looks like prices have consolidated down in there back to neutral. So, whenever just because it gapped up doesn't mean it stays up. You can see where gaps affect the market, and then it'll settle into a price again. So this one, I think I would expect it to behave like it did last time, gap and then settle.
Sounds good. And Mookie brings up, looks like she's asking for AMBA, AMBA. Ooh, earnings
Amber rally.
gap and volatility. I mean, that thing gapped from 55 down to about 42. Probably a good earnings play there a couple of days ago if you were playing bi-directional. A lot of big phrases there. If you don't have a strategy on earnings, usually you have to avoid them. I would actually look for slowing momentum in these candles here, Noah, and consider something counter trend. But that's not really for a beginner or somebody in their first 6 months or so, a counter trend trade. We usually like to keep it a little simpler than that. But I do like that gap counter trend gap fill on a naked put or a bull put spread. It is a good system to trade. Let's go on to TTD next from Chuck and Andrea.
Trade Desk Incorporated. It's on a high base. It's bullish on average. It's been consolidating between 57 and 47, kind of a 10-point range, and it's
Hmm.
stuck in the middle of that. So this one I'd say neutral to bullish.
That's an old Steelers wheel song, stuck in the middle, right? RTN next by Scott Curate. Bullish breakout, already missed the move for a swing trade, but there's no reason to fight that tape, no question about it. Probably pay range up. Somebody type in pay range in the chat. Remember, when we teach pay ranges, we're talking about hitting a high point. It's already gone up far enough to where you'd be at the top of that range in most mathematical scenarios here. So I think a profit taking point there, Noah, from my perspective. And gold, let's look at the gold contract. You can look at GC or GLD, either one here, Noah.
Speaking of range up, got a lot of momentum and energy in that. You can see the candle shrinking, and it is range up into a big resistance number 1350. So profit taking, I think, would be in order. Trail stops, etc.
Yeah, very good. RF is next. Bearish candle into another support zone. Usually not great breakdowns for me in the 10, 12, $13 range. I know some traders will trade them. I tend to like a little higher price when I'm playing something down. I like to see that it's got a lot of room to drop. But major support in the 13 zone I would be paying attention to. Financial sectors, obviously. And they got a dividend coming up. Probably a wait on this one until you get further confirmation. Bank of America, we're going to stick right with the banks here. BAC.
BAC. Um, Sector, we know from our previous conversation that the financial sector is a little down. Bank of America, with a little bit of downward price action today, very range bound right now between about 25 and 22 bucks, and it's in the middle of the range, but I've got a slightly neutral to bearish bias on this one.
Very good. And Boeing is next. This one from Keith. Owing, gap up, consolidation, new support would be right there at that little doji candle about 3 weeks ago, Noah, that little transition candle on the gap. Gaps can be a tricky animal. There's no question about it. I would look for a high base breakout from here. Next direction I'd be most interested in trading would actually be back to the upside on the next signal, but we're not currently on a signal, so that would be a wait on that regard. Berkby here, Noah, Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company.
Burke B, a bit of a selling pressure today off of a new high. So anytime you see a stock break out to a new high like that, it's coming back down. Look for a buy signal on the bottom of the channel, on that trend channel. Some above average selling, profit taking. So anytime I see above average volume on some profit taking, I need to make sure we get a good signal first.
Yep, no question. PLCE for place. Children's Place. W pattern here, hitting support. 100 was a really, really good, strong support on the swing back up. Reward risk, probably we've missed it here. Looks like 120, 125-ish would be the top end of that range and 195-ish. So we're kind of in the middle. Could be an interesting iron condor candidate if you get a good enough window to trade that in. I would want to price that out with windows all the way up and down and then trigger those out. But that'd be an advanced strategy. I do like a neutral play on that one. HES is next from John. HES.
Well, that there looks like a pretty good looking bearish retracement. Not quite textbook, but not far off of that. Big support resistance zone at 40. Consider it a bear retracement and look for downward confirmation on that.
Very good. And Verizon, VZ. Okay, M pattern breakdown. I would look for something coming back down. $47. It looks like an old resistance point as well. I see that red line you already have drawn here. It's under pressure. I'd be cautious, if not bearish right here, Noah. And if you get some kind of bigger red candle with institutional strength behind it, or a good confirmation candle, that even is another opportunity to go back down to the downside. So definitely setting up for bearish. And one last one, Noah, then we'll wrap up with some homework. Let's take a look at U.S. Steel, which is X.
U.S. Steel looks to me like it is swing range up, pay range up, with a support resistance zone and a signal candle, kind of a high wave doji there. I'd look for some profit taking on this, short-term drop back. Probably be considering being a buyer again at 25 or lower, but for now, I think it's probably more likely to drop based off of profit taking and hitting a target.
Yeah, definitely like it. And guys, a couple of reminders. Number one, obviously we love doing these coaches shows. Reach out to us. Let us know how we can help you. You know, the clubhouse, the community.